Welcome back to All In Autumn Wind. I'm Raider Cody. Well, Brian, welcome into the studio. Built this almost 4 years ago, and you're the second person to ever come inside for a one-on-one interview, you and Kenny King. So, built this thing to basically get away and talk about Raiders just in a little bit different. I'm real environmental when it comes to Raider talk. I either want to be at the stadium or I want to be, at a tailgate, at some sort of fan fest, or inside here. And it works. Creates a vibe. Everything in here has to be Raider related or equipment related. And I think it fits, it works. Audio equipment, microphones. These microphones for me are my favorite to use. Feels good. Mixers. We have 3 different camera setups that, you can switch and record however you want, whatever you're trying to do, whether it's live streaming or jumping in with somebody else. Obviously, shout out to Woodson Whiskey. Always keep that close. Card collection. Card collection is actually between me and my dad. My dad's the one that, really brought me in, and encouraged me to do a lot of this. So, shout out to him. But yeah, some of my favorite players back here on the back wall as well. Tim Brown, Josh Jacobs, Howie Long, Charles Woodson, of course. Charles Woodson should be listed almost number 1 up there, but number 1 in my heart. It's all that matters. We have, a custom AC unit built into the thing to keep it cool in here during the Central Valley summers. And for me, it gets the job done. Yeah, welcome in. And if you see any upgrades that need to be done on your way out, Brian, you let me know.
I want to start by thanking you for having me over. I really appreciate it. Taking time on a Sunday to meet with me. I want to go back just for a moment because I, followed you for a few years on Twitter. Raider Cody on Twitter, 48,000 followers. He's got a big presence on social media, Twitter, YouTube. He's got the Blackout division. We'll get into all of that.
Yep.
I followed you for a few years, but last year I went on this journey of going to every single game.
Yep.
I met you in week 2.
Yep.
The Cardinals home opener, and you had the Blackout party. I stuck into your party. I didn't sneak in. I went through the front door, let me be clear. You had the setup in the back room that was set up for a podcast that you guys had done earlier that day. And at some point, I made my way back there. You guys were all very nice, and you welcomed me back there, and I interviewed Kenny King Jr. back there. It was fantastic.
That's
he was
right.
Great.
Remember that.
But, after the party, you guys were all tearing down, and you guys would just look at me because I'm hanging out in your room like, who the hell is this guy? What are you doing? What are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to all 17 games. And I see the eyes roll like, oh, here we go. And I remember weeks and weeks later, by the end of the year, I had, a lot of interactions with you guys and got to know you a bit better, but you said something to me towards the end of the year. Do you remember what you said?
I say a lot of things, so go ahead.
You were like, when you said that in week 2, I thought, yeah, right.
Yeah.
I've heard people say that before. It's not going to happen. It's too much. You're not going to do it.
Yeah. No, I remember telling you that.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing, I think, for you is I give everyone the benefit of the doubt, but I definitely always want to see it whenever someone says they're going to do something like that. Everything we do with Raider fan content, parties, events, anything going on, it's everyone can talk about it and say that, oh, yeah, I'm going to go do this, that, the other. Oh, this is what I really want to go do. We're going to do big things. 90% of the time, I never see it happen. There's a lot of things I say and never fulfill. You know what I mean? So it's just, wanted to see it done and definitely earned every bit of respect from me. And I'm sure most of our team as a whole, just by completing exactly what you said you were going to do. So yeah, respect.
Well, I appreciate that. I wanted to do, what I'm doing is trying to meet with some fans to kind of get like a My Raider story type situation, to hear your experience as a Raider fan over the years. And what I'd like to do is to start with the beginning. Where did it start? How old were you? Why did you become a Raider fan? Who influenced you? And what are your first memories of Raiders?
So even though it sounds cliche to say, I'm a womb to the tomb fan. It's hard to say womb because you don't know what you're going to be when you're a baby. You're just kind of pushed into it by your family. So thanks, Dad. I'm going to flip that around. I'm going to use that same, influence for my son. If I got to put up with it, so does he, right? So that's where it all started for me, was just, my dad being real into football games, making it a point on Sundays, no matter what we have going on, we're either going to watch the game on time, or he will wait and not want to know the score, not know what's going on. It could have ended 3 hours ago, and my dad would go home, click on the recording, however he could do it. Because even back in the day, I forget the first kind of DVR setup, he'd record to like tape or anything to be able to make it to where he can go back and play it back. And that was it. It was a point that he watched the Raider game. I guess it was that got just kind of burned into my head. That's where it started there. Being able to see, 9 years old, 10 years old, 11 years old, those are kind of, the last like glory years. For me as childhood, it's a pretty easy influence, right? Because that's kind of where you're picking your team. Real deal is that you're starting to understand sports a lot more when you're 8, 9, 10 years old, and all it takes is a little bit of success. So hopefully, whenever my son gets in the next 5 years, the Raiders are successful and can just solidify, hey, this is your football team. It gives you something to cheer for. Because I don't care how old you are. There's not too many kids that really want to be involved in a football team or any kind of sports team for that matter. That's not good and not relevant. Who wants to go to school and be taught crap to because they're football team?
Well, especially in the Central Valley, because most schools, half are Niner fans, half are Raider fans.
Yeah.
A little bit of Rams, Chargers here and there, but
they're lying to themselves.
When you were young, did you go to a lot of games, or was it strictly on TV?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I went to a lot, but we probably made it a point to go to 1 or 2 a year.
Yeah.
In Oakland. Obviously, whenever I was a baby, I have some baby pictures in LA Raider gear. But, for me, it was Oakland Raiders. That's what I grew up on, knowing, remembering. So, I got to see the Coliseum. And I think, at the time, whenever I was going, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, it was in a little bit better shape. You know what I mean? Obviously, things went downhill from there. But the environment was the same as it was right before we left. So that really locked it in. That's what even locked in my wife to be a Raider fan. Taking her to one game in Oakland, and it's over with. Done. So we're a little spoiled now with Vegas. I don't see why you wouldn't want to become a Raider fan in Vegas either. But at the time, that's what did it. And it's kind of funny seeing, we're doing events here and doing podcasts and interacting and having a good friend now, even like with Violator, Wayne Mabry. It's funny. I have at my parents' house a picture framed up when I was like maybe 8 years old, 9 years old at the Coliseum, taking a picture with him, holding a flag, like just being a kid. And now it's like kind of somewhat, I guess you could say, working with him. You know what I mean? It's cool to see things come full circle like that. And, I guess it just shows, the OG fans too, gives you a little bit more
I love
influence.
That.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And he's somebody who really cares about the next generation.
Yeah.
He, for super fans in particular, the way they behave themselves and, being respectable. He's not into people in costumes, drinking during games and things like that. It's really nice to see him, have that influence on other people getting dressed up as Raider fans.
No, he's got it pretty much figured out.
Yeah.
He's got it. He's a really good influence on kids, and I can't wait, for him to actually meet my son. So whenever I start taking him,
I guess that's why he's in the Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah, no, it definitely works, but I don't know. It's not that my story as becoming a Raider fan is the same as all the others, but I think it just shows how deep-rooted this becomes within families and within generations of families, passing down all sports teams like just we talked about. Me and you have a real similar palette of sports teams. So it's one of those things that I think, the loyalty lies there. It gets tested all the time. But that's why we get so mad and passionate about it, is because it's there and it's been there for a while. And you're at your house, you're at your parents' house, you're at your grandparents' house. They're all Raider fans. You're stuck with it, and that's what pisses you off the most.
Yeah, let's go back to the great run we had the first Gruden years. We had 3 years in a row where, quite honestly, we could have gotten a chip. We should have gotten a chip in those years. It was Saragusa landing on Gannon in 2000. we had a home game for the AFC Championship, and the Ravens went on to beat the Giants in the Super Bowl. The next year was the Tuck Rule.
Yep.
And then the third year was Gruden coaching the Bucs and playing us in the Super Bowl. We didn't stand a chance. It was ridiculous. But we were excellent back then. We had a great team. This was like the heart of your, like, you're getting attached to the team at that time.
Yeah.
How has your relationship with the Raiders, your love for the Raiders changed or evolved in that 20 years that's been mostly suffering? Let's be honest. I mean, it's been a lot of losing.
It seems like the down years were somehow easier for me as a Raider fan. You took it back to just enjoying the environment, going to football games, and enjoying sports and football. Winning is the ultimate goal, and that's what we enjoy the most. But between those years, I mean, that's like you said, I got real attached during the Gruden years, and those first few were, like you said, should have won a chip. That was kind of like his Sean McVay, real young coach coming in. He has kind of like a little spark to try new things in the NFL, and it should have worked, and it was real exciting for me to see, just because it seemed like just such a fresh football team with some real star players that you could talk about and enjoy. And as a kid, that's what you want. You want star players. The down years, I found myself getting attached to, the Denarius Moores, the Asamoahs, whether they were busts or not, whoever our best players were on the team. And you went there and just cheered for a win. And for some reason, it was so simple. And I can't explain it. I mean, I think once we left to Vegas, or even these last few years, maybe it's just social media perception. It's like the intensity and the need to win has really went through the roof. And maybe it's just now at this point been so long, really just been so long, people are sick of losing. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of at that point too. So for whatever reason, I wouldn't say, it definitely didn't affect my fandom in a bad way. I got a whole closet, in front of my house of jerseys that you would never want to wear. Like they are. I mean, do
you have a number 2? Do you have a Russell?
No, I never got a Russell. It was funny. One of my buddies was just talking to me about going to an LSU game in September, and I'm like, well, I might have to track down on old eBay a Marcus Russell LSU jersey just for gags. But it's hard for me to explain this entire thing without sounding like an idiot. But in my mind, it's just like, it makes it everything's just so much simpler to just show up, have a good time. And I think that's even kind of translated into what we're doing now, not to skip ahead of your timeline, but to no matter what, we can't control what happens on the field, but we can control what happens everywhere else to have a good time, no matter what, as a Raider fan, and leave your weekend satisfied.
So I want to go back to something you said in there about the intensity has increased over the years. It seems like, several losing seasons, you can get through it, but it goes on long enough. There's a point where it's like, no, we really need to win.
Yeah.
Now, again, I'm a bit older than you, so it's going to get worse. If you get to my age and we still haven't won, it's going to be worse, because you do start thinking like, hey, man, I got to see a Super Bowl victory in my lifetime, Now, there's other teams out there that have never won or never even gotten to the Super Bowl. So we have 3, but it's before our time. So
I can't talk about them too much, right? I mean, I can still, we can still hold it over the heads of those that haven't won any, but
Chargers.
Yeah.
Let's fast forward a little bit to 2016 in particular, because that was a year where, after many bad years, we finally had a great season. And let's be honest, that was a great season. You remember the first game was against the Saints, and we went for 2 to win on the road.
That was huge.
We started that season in an amazing way, and everything was clicking until Carr goes down, right? Kind of changed the really trajectory of our franchise, because then eventually Del Rio's out, there a lot more changes after that. But what did that year do to you after many years of losing, finally having a season where we have a winning record and we were in first place when Carr went down?
That season was extremely special, I guess, just because now we're, a couple, 2-3 years into the Carr era. To kind of see that grow from now, it's like a new face. It seems like every time you bring in a new quarterback, it's like resetting the franchise every single time. So we hit this reset button. Few years into it, we have this super promising year. and everyone, it's just there's a lot of good hype around the Raiders. For the first time, we're getting positive media coverage, right? Just to see the team kind of get back and get its feet wet was cool, but not enough, not good enough. And that was one of the first years that we had a really bad Christmas. Right. Family's coming over, breaks his leg. My brother's just now walking through the door right when it happened. He's like, "Why is everyone sad, dude?" He's like, "Doing good." I'm like, "No." Like,
that was a nightmare.
Go look at the TV. So that season was that might have been the one that really just got us, since we're talking about intensity. I feel like that's the season that really got fans just all over the place with their emotions because they got so much promise and getting that ripped away. There's not too many teams that get in that position. I mean, you look at the Niners last year, sure, but I mean, that's kind of like something that it was almost adding up all year long.
Yeah.
Quarterback kept getting hurt. This one was like, this is our one and only hope.
Tell me about everything that you've got going on. 48,000 followers on Twitter, of course, but tell me about your podcast, Blackout Division, and then let's talk about the social community in Raider Nation a little bit.
Twitter was, I guess, the go-to spot for me to get everything off my chest, through the season, during games, off season, any moves, any decisions made.
Why did you start that? Was that did you have an intention, or was that you as a fan just going? No,
that was just me as a fan. I kind of got tired of venting everywhere else. You know what I mean?
Your wife got tired of hearing
oh yeah. Well, she's one of many. I'm like, I'm just like, okay, I'll just get on and start talking about it, interacting, kind of see what other opinions are. And it seemed like right off the bat, I kind of just never quite agreed, or it was so hard for me to find groups of people that had the same thought process as me. But I've never really been one I'm not going to adjust my opinion to fit in with Raider fans and be like, oh yeah, I agree. I'm going to be hard-headed about it and be like, this is what I think. Created arguments, created discussion, and I think it was good. And yeah, between like 2015 and 2019, it was just nonstop, just going. And then, there towards the end, about 2017, I think is when it started. That's where the podcast came into play, because I forget who it was. Some smart aleck probably I think he came in and was just like, hey, you talk a lot. You should start a podcast. I don't even know what a podcast is. Didn't even know how to listen to it. I'm like, what's a podcast? Googled it. I'm like trying to find one on my phone. How do I even listen to a podcast on my phone? Figured out there's a whole app dedicated to it. I'm like, that's pretty cool. Listened to a couple podcasts. I'm like, sure, I'll give it a shot. $15 microphone, and sat my laptop in my truck on my lunch breaks and just went for it. So it was cool, but just social media is just now. At one point, it was cool where you could just argue and talk crap, and it really wasn't that big a deal. But from that time of the high years and creating this debate over car, which I really think that the car wars and all this stuff that happens on social media, I don't think it's really rooted around Derek Carr. I just really think it's rooted around people that just have no life. It's like at some point we got to get off social media and stop talking about them. I'll show support, here and there, pop it out there. But he's helped me a lot just outside of football stuff. Like, my daughter being in the hospital and him being able to make a phone call and, help out, what I mean? Just to, family support, real life support. So why shouldn't I support him as a person type thing? But, a lot of people take, I think, my opinion, which can be biased. I can admit that. That's okay. And I can still criticize them on the field and be honest about it. But they take that and get real angry about it. And there should really be no reason that an opinion on a player or things like that should make someone so angry. And if they do support him, they support him.
You have a lot going on in Vegas, and I experienced a great deal last year. The blackout parties the night before games, the party bus on the day of. What do you have planned for this year? Where's the location? Tell me about the events coming up.
We're back at Tropicana, where it kind of all started. And night before parties, free entry. Come in, hang out, DJ Mike Scott. You'll have Woodson Whiskey, drink specials. Pacifico's coming back on board again this year as well as the beer sponsor for us. Happy Dad Seltzers is coming in. Ladies, if you like seltzers, now we have a seltzer sponsor. Party bus rides are going to be the same thing as last year, coming out of Barcode Burgers. And really love that sports bar. Really cool vibe. Really good food. I'm a fat kid, so I got food is the number one priority for me. So party bus. We have a whole new party bus that was built last year, ready to go, called Snake Eyes. And
This is different?
This is different. Yeah, even better, bigger and better than what we rode on last year.
Okay.
So even has a restroom and everything on board, and full bar. We'll have a DJ on board.
I'm not sure that's a good idea, Cody.
But yeah, we'll have DJ Izzy on board with us now for the party bus. And tailgate hopefully gets a little bigger and badder. That's something that is why we do all the other events. You know what I mean? If you see us throw night before parties, if you see us selling party bus tickets, we are selling an experience, and we believe a lot in what that is doing. But all in all, we're bringing in the sponsors. We're bringing in all this so that we could spend more on the tailgate, make a better game day experience, right? It's all about finding a way to give back. And the goals and the stuff that we want to do, we're trying to cut out the middleman, right? We're trying to be by the fans, for the fans.
There's a couple misconceptions I've seen out there on social media with your activities, and I want to address two of them.
Okay.
One is how much work goes into all of this. You guys work your ass off doing this, and I don't think people realize that. Throwing these parties, or even the podcast, or even the setup that you did today. I'm in your Raider room, your studio here. This is a lot of work and a lot of money that goes into it. So, Can you say a few words about that? I mean,
it's hard for me to exactly describe it, just because it's real natural, I guess, in what we're trying to accomplish. Since starting the podcast, I feel like I've put the same energy into now this. It's different. It's a learning curve, right? So we're working every day. I'm talking to, whether it's Barcode Cody, Johnny, DJ Mike, Graphic, a lot of the guys that were here from day one. I'm talking to every single one of them at least every other day. Every day I'm on the phone with one or two people, and I couldn't tell you the hours, meetings, emails sent, things that we're trying to do, partnerships we're trying to create. It's a grind, and nobody understands. People will come in and they'll say, we could do this ourselves, and we can do this. We don't need you guys, type thing, and we can go do that. Until it comes down to it, and realize what it takes to build the connections and the contacts and the reputation in Vegas to be able to step away from places and not have a bad rep. You know what I mean? Even if it comes down to things like with Virgin. The image of Raider fans scared off Virgin hotels after the home opener party. I don't blame them. That party was popping. You know what I mean? So it was towards the end of the night, it was really going. We had one ballsy Cardinals fan get up on stage, and I think that might have been the cherry on top. So note to away fans coming to the Blackout party: don't get on stage in front of Raider fans, especially after 4 hours of $25 bucket specials.
That's right. Yeah, I went pretty deep with those bucket specials, by the way. But taking us to the second misconception that I think is out there is, I've seen some comments. As you do what you do, I think people think that somehow this is all you do, or that somehow the Raiders themselves are paying you a ton of money to do this.
Yeah, that's funny.
And I don't think people realize, hey, you've got a real job, real life, real wife, like everything outside of the Raiders stuff. Do you mind if we talk a little bit about that?
I work full time for a water pump company, and I put in between 50 and 60 hours a week doing that, and that is my priority. That is what puts food on the table. That is, at this point, really my only source of income. This isn't something where I come in and I make money off this. I put money into it. I invest. I'm very much in the red into investing, and I believe I'm okay with that, because that's how every other Raider fan is in their fandom, right? So if I can somehow create a platform and boost that, and still, it's sort of like a equal make more, spend more thing, then it worked. So yeah, married, 7 years, over 7 years now, and 2 kids, a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. And that's a job of its own. You know what I mean? Wife's in school, and I live a normal life. I mean, you saw my house, normal person. But yeah, definitely not my only job, and the Raiders definitely don't pay me. Derek Carr doesn't pay me. That's another misconception.
Right.
I'm just, I make a lot of sacrifices, I guess, to say the least.
What does your wife think of all of your Raider activities?
Well, at first she wasn't sure about the podcast. She's like, why? I'm like, I don't know. I just, it seems like something cool to do. She thought it was a waste of time. You know what I mean? And I don't blame her because at the time it kind of was, and then it grew and it grew and it grew. Went from doing it out of my truck to doing it in the garage with some fans and green screens, and then, tore down the garage and popped this thing up inside of the shop after we built it. And it just kept going, kept taking off. And she was like, wow, we started going to games and people would want to take pictures of me. And she's like, dang, like, a lot of people that are paying attention. And then she started kind of listening to this stuff. And my mom's like my biggest fan, so she knows what's going on. She doesn't miss a show. Like, she'll see I post on social media about me going on someone else's show, and she'll be texting me like, how do I listen to it? I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. So
that's sweet.
Yeah.
That's
so family support is definitely there. Right now it's funny. My wife will be more supportive now because her birthday is on the home opener. So she's going to try and leverage all my connections for her birthday. So we got to make sure that we're top notch by home opener.
Yep. I want to bring this to a close by talking a little bit about actual Raider football here, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah.
Prior
that,
to
I guess.
Coming out of a playoff game in Cincinnati 2 years ago, the expectations for last season were quite high. I think I got a little too excited myself with the expectations. So this year I'm a little more tempered. I'm going into it. But what are your thoughts with all the changes? We got Jimmy G and his foot. We've got Waller's out. Jacob's here for now. What are your thoughts on this season in particular?
Well, we went to the Valley Children's event last night. I actually ran into Wendy, just when Wendy. I'm sure you met her. Yeah. She was there and asked me the same question. And I'm like, well.
Isn't she great? Just for a moment. I mean, she is super nice, but also like really tuned in.
She's tuned in. She's leveled out. She just when you talk to her, you just kind of like it lights up. She's real positive and happy, and just kind of there spreading that's one of the things we talked about. The in-person events is what I'm trying to encourage. Yep. Like meet some Wendy's out there in Raider Nation. You know what I mean, and learn that it's not all hostile. So for the first time, I think almost ever in my Raider fandom, and I don't know if it's just kind of the bitterness of the offseason of some of our star players and the direction that I feel like this is going. I don't want to say I think we're going to suck. I just don't have we're going to win a Super Bowl this year mentality. And I don't think it's a bad thing because I've had that mentality for how many years now and it hasn't worked. So I really hope, and I've convinced myself to stick with it now because I hope I'm wrong. I'm like, okay, now maybe it's not the Raiders. Maybe it's us. maybe us coming in every year and suggesting that it's going to be a Super Bowl year. This is our year. There's always next year. You know what I mean? Like having that mentality. Maybe it's just some sort of bad juju on the team, and I can't figure out if it is or not. We'll know here in a few months. But I'm just kind of riding with the fact that, hey, my expectations low because last year I was extremely disappointed as a fan in the results and with everybody. Players, coaching staff, everything. I felt like nothing ever came full circle. Like, everyone's on Josh McDaniels or, blaming Derek Carr or the defense. It's a little of everything, right? So it's like, how do you still have three extremely good star players, Max Crosby, Devontae Adams, and Josh Jacobs? Every single team in the NFL would take those three players on their roster right now, probably at their salaries. To have the character and the work ethic and the reputation and be as professional as they are, and this team seem like they can't hold it together and have bad relationships, and now it's like, where are we at with the coaching staff? I don't even care all those the losses that we blew, or the leads that we blew at halftime, right? How many 20-point leads or whatever that was.
Yeah.
I don't care if that's on the coaching staff. What's still going on with the players? You know what I mean? Like, why does it seem like we're losing steam, towards the end of games? So I don't really get what happened last year, but how do we pick ourselves up this season in the first few weeks of the year that set the tone and go out there and win some football games right now? I don't know. We just got to see it done. Like, that's it.
And two difficult games, away against the Broncos away against Buffalo. Those are the first 2 games, so it's going to be tough. But, last year was heartbreaking. 6-11 season very easily could have been 11-6, So just like you said, the end of the game, especially the Rams game really sticks out because that's when it was kind of the nail in the coffin. 16-3 in the fourth quarter. How do you lose that game?
Yeah.
And Baker Mayfield 3 days with the team. By the way, anytime there's news about the Raiders the week of a game, I know it's automatically bad. The Jeff Saturday, Colts just hired a new coach, right? So obviously we're going to win that game. No. Rams just got Baker Mayfield. Obviously we're going to win that game. No. Anytime there's news about the Raiders during the week, I just roll my eyes and say, okay, well.
When I saw Baker Mayfield on the sideline, no helmet on, headbutting dudes with helmets on, I was like, this isn't going to be a good ending to the game. So,
yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, probably I would say a different way of disappointing, but I would say probably the most disappointing season as a Raider fan for me. Like when you had no excuse for things to go wrong, right? 2016 was its own disappointing because we couldn't control that. 2001 was its own disappointing because we couldn't control that. 2002 was, I don't even know. Could we have controlled all that nonsense?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we could have had Gannon change his play calling or something. That's one thing we could have done differently, perhaps.
Yeah, something.
Because Gruden knew everything he was going to do.
Yeah, he knew everything going on, or we could have took away the players' passports or something so they couldn't leave the country. I don't know. Like, what do we do in that situation? But overall, I'm still, and this is our motto, and I think I mentioned it earlier. This is why we're doing what we're doing, because I'm trying to take it back to the simpler times. As a Raider fan, during the down years where we had really no expectations, just, hopefulness, and that's it. And finding a way for Raider fans to enjoy their weekends in Vegas, and hopefully on a budget too, because Vegas is getting through the roof, absurd prices, so we're trying to come up with discount codes for rooms, good ways of traveling to and from the stadium. And you get all kinds of parties, you get free drinks at, majority of our events. After party at the Winfield Club is going to be an every home game thing. So we got a lot of stuff going on, and that's what I'm looking forward to. And then anything that happens on the field that's positive is just going to make it that much better for me. So that's it.
I want to thank you again for doing this and taking the time.
Absolutely.
Also, I want to thank you and your team for everything that you're trying to do in Vegas, because it really does help for, people that are just kind of getting familiar with Vegas or coming in. It's still relatively new. We've really only had 2 seasons of fans, right?
Yeah.
So it's important what you're doing. I have a lot of respect for you and what you're doing in your team. So thanks again, and here's to a great season.
That's right. Well, Brian, appreciate you coming by. Appreciate you taking the time to come over here and come over to my territory. So, make sure you guys check out All In, AUTUMUN, all season long. He was definitely a joy to be around. I wish you guys could see all the stuff that we do outside of his camera lens. There's only one way to do that, and that's to come follow him yourself. So, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, share with a friend. Brian is doing some really cool things here with All In AUTUMUN, and definitely glad to be a part of it. So,
got to get the fist bump in.
That's right.